Hey, this is Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast, here to help you make the most of your summer with Michelob Ultra, a superior light beer worth playing for. Play for it with the guys when you're competing to see who can sink more birdies on the golf course, because winning tastes even better with Ultra on the line. Play for Ultra. Fill your fridge with Michelob Ultra this summer. Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2025 Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the individuals participating in the show. All persons described or mentioned in the podcast should be considered innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. This podcast contains subject matter such as violence and graphic descriptions along with adult language, which may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Have you ever heard of remote viewing? It's using psychic abilities to perceive objects, locations, and events, even though you are not present for them. The government conducted many experiments trying to prove remote viewing, and apparently they succeeded. What did the remote viewers see? Aliens? Maybe. You're listening to the Mysterious Breeders Podcast, and tonight we bring you the case of Pat Price and Project 8200.
Welcome to a deep, dark, dank, moist, false fall basement somewhere in the bowels of Georgia.
Yeah, it's been pretty decently cool mornings.
I've been enjoying myself.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to fool us.
No,
we've done had too many false falls to fall for this mess.
Yeah, I've been sunburnt in the middle of to the late September at football practice, so you can't get one by me, buddy.
Not at all. Nice try.
Yesterday, we were recording the day after Labor Day, but yesterday was super nice, man. It was super duper nice.
Yeah, I grilled a whole chicken. It was very nice.
Very nice. It's very nice.
Very nice.
We got a little comments on the off the cuff episode. Matt said, listening to this great episode while brewing a West Coast IPA in my basement while drinking a Lagunitas. Pretty much love everything Josh Gates does, but Expedition X sometimes seems too good to be true. Oh, and I have a tough time buying beer from Costco because once it goes warm sitting on that floor, it becomes skunky.
Well, I mean, that's why you buy cans. I mean, you can't go wrong with cans.
I will say this, and I have to disagree with some people in the beer business. They're like, man, if beer just doesn't go skunky. I'm like, have you ever bought clear glass bottles of Modelo at Walmart?
I can assure you, anyone that thinks beer doesn't go skunky has never drank beer, because that stuff goes skunky.
Quick.
But
yes, I have never. Now, I'll take that back. I've had skunky beer in cans, but it was like a year old. So, there you go.
And that's what's sad about, like, you know, Kroger and Ingles or wherever you shop. If it's a kind of a small town and you're buying good beer, supposedly good beer, like IPAs and all that stuff and whatnot, there's a good chance that it's been sitting there for a while, because rednecks just don't drink IPA.
No, they do not.
You'd be hard pressed to buy a skunky Bud Light.
That's true. That is true.
You're not going to get extremely fresh IPAs in a small town in Georgia. You just not.
So we have one new patron, which we are
Nice.
we are gaining about as fast as we're losing them, but we'll take it.
I can't believe we're losing them. Why would we lose them?
I know, our schedules probably. We had all these grand plans during the summer, and then it just went to shit.
It did. It really did.
But like we said last episode,
you gotta support this podcast for the love of the game. You know,
right.
You can't just be like expecting all this extra shit. You gotta support us just because you want to.
The artist.
Like, well, they don't give out special episodes. Well, you know what? We're busy.
Yeah, the artist known as
Time Garage, who does this for a living. You know.
Yeah, if we would get those, like I said on the last episode, if we could get that $1 million tier, and we could convince you to pay us for a minimum of 5 years, we would beat Joe Rogan.
Yeah, I promise you that much. It would be my life's. It would be my life's work to beat Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
and even appear on Joe Rogan talking about how we beat him.
That's right. That's right. We'll make the rounds.
You let me hit that. You let me hit that Powerball tonight, by gosh.
Oh.
And we will definitely improve this podcast tenfold.
Well, I told Coach off the air. He asked if I bought tickets, and I said yes. That I was, but I was not confident in my time traveling abilities. Speaking of which, this is how teachers mold the youth of America. I closed my honors algebra class today with. Have y'all heard the conspiracy theory about the lottery after it gets over 500 million? And they were all like, no.
Yeah, California.
Yeah.
California.
I said, boys and girls, I didn't believe it until there was like, what was it? Either 3 or 5 in a row that had gotten over 500 million, and they were one winner from California.
Don't quote me, but I believe it is out of the top 6, the highest jackpots in the history of the lottery. The top 6 highest. California has won 5. 4 outright and 1 they shared with Michigan. I know the sharing with Michigan's true. I remember that. But yeah, the conspiracy is California's so damn expensive, the state government just rigs the lottery and takes the funds for themselves.
And I've heard that it's a good way for the federal government to basically money launder.
Yeah.
So you got those two, but the one that I told my kids was that they set it up with these high $1 billion, $900 million jackpots, and when there's a single one, you never hear who it is, which you wouldn't ever know who I was. But
in Georgia, you have to disclose your name. You cannot be anonymous. You cannot accept the jackpot anonymously.
I would go by my middle name and no one would ever know it. And I'm not telling it now just in case I win it. But I told them, I said, it's time travelers. And I said, and that's how I closed class. I was like, go get your tinfoil hats, dive down that rabbit hole. I'll see you tomorrow.
That's true. It could be. I mean, it makes sense. If I time traveled, if I knew how to time travel, you're damn right I'd go win the lottery.
But here's the thing. It's like them dumbasses that get caught embezzling like $7.3 billion. Hey, genius, when you embezzled your first $500 million, did you ever think, I might want to stop? No, you got greedy.
Do you know what conspiracy theory I wholeheartedly believe?
With your whole chest? No, tell me.
Is the art industry is a gigantic money laundering scheme. Or tax evasion scheme. You're going to tell me like the one that sticks out in my mind is Jackson Pollock, but there's a conspiracy that they made him very popular just so we could piss off the Russians during the Cold War. And they, don't get me started into that, but there is a son of a bitch artist, quote unquote artist, that his literal art is to duct tape a banana to a wall.
I have seen that.
It sells for millions of dollars. And the whole thing is for them to eat the banana. The person that pays, let's say $4 million for this banana, they immediately eat it. You gonna tell me that I don't give a damn if I did win the lottery tomorrow night, for $1.3 billion. So I could piss away $4 million on anything I ever wanted.
It ain't going to be a banana.
It's not going to be a damn banana.
No, it ain't. I ain't asking for much.
Yeah. The only thing I'm willing to pay more than $1 million for is Pink Floyd's guitarist David Gilmour, his black Stratocaster guitar that he recorded Dark Side of the Moon on. He already sold it for $4-point-something million, so I'd have to pay more than that, but that's what I'd buy.
Yeah.
That's the only thing on earth other than a house that I think I could give away that kind of, even if I'm worth $6 billion, $10 billion. That's the only thing on earth other than the house that I would pay more than $1 million for. That's crazy. $1 million something dollars, couple $1 million for a damn banana
and some duct tape.
Nah, you're laundering money or you're tax evasion. You're doing something sketchy.
Yeah, I would have to agree, bro. I would have to agree. All right. So, one thing that I forget about last week when we were doing Off the Cuff, I talked about the Van Meter visitor, and that on that Expedition X episode about how the couple saw what they thought was the Van Meter visitor, but his horn wasn't glowing, but it was very tall, and it made some weird noise. I got to thinking about maybe what if it was a shoe bill? That one, not the whole thing, but what if that one was a shoe bill? Because supposedly there is this, like, it's kind of like the big cat trade. Like some of these exotic birds, people will like smuggle in, and then say a storm comes through and the cage or the pen gets ripped down, and then you've got one out. And so I think there was the Ninjas or Butterflies did an episode back, I don't know, a year ago, maybe more. And they were talking about how there is a bunch of shoe bills that have escaped captivity, I think in Florida.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you something. If I saw a shoe bill clapping that damn beak of his in the wee hours of the night, I could tell you it might have been a cryptid.
I don't know what a shoe bill is. Is that big bird with that huge beak that looks like it could crush a coconut without any effort whatsoever?
It doesn't look like it's moving, but it's loud as hell. But it's clicking that thing, and it's ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Have I ever told you the story about how I found out how intelligent parrots are?
No. Gather around, children.
I hung out with these old boys in my hometown before I moved off to college. And their mom had several, and when I say several, like 8 parrots that they kept in their garage. 8. And they were all blue except for one was silver or gray, whatever. And he was the freaking leader. And they had a fridge out there that we'd keep beer in. Okay. And I was the victim of a coordinated attack that showed true intelligence of these birds. I walk in to get a beer, and these 2 blue parrots, imagine not giant, but like full-grown
African
blue and yellow parrots. You've seen them. You know what they look like. They stand at the end of their cage about eye level, and they spread their wings as far as they can, and they start like squawking at me. They're not talking. They could talk, but they weren't talking. They were making the loudest noise they could possibly make. So, of course, I look at them. About that time, I feel an extreme pain on my Achilles tendon.
He bit you?
The gray one was on the floor sneaking up on me and bit my Achilles tendon.
Dang. Did he live?
He did. But I never went back into that son bitch for as long as I hung out with him.
I wouldn't have either.
You can't tell me that wasn't coordinated. You can't tell me
it was
that they didn't plan that out.
The old razzle dazzle, let him look over here, and I'll get him in the Achilles.
They pulled a magician trick on me.
Sleight of hand.
Yep. All right, son of a gun, let's get into this.
All right, so what if everything you've been told about our world is incomplete? The story starts with a group of spies who didn't need contraptions or satellite links or gadgets. All they needed was their minds, and what they found will make you question reality itself. So I stumbled.
Think of The Men Who Stare at Goats, if you've ever seen that movie. This is kind of what we're talking about.
Yes, and I stumbled across this Project 8200, which then led me to Pat Price. But that is what we are diving into. So to fully understand how the U.S. government ended up using the powers of the mind to accidentally stumble upon alleged, air quotes, alien bases, you need to first know about Project Stargate. No, not the TV show. But back in the 1970s, during the height of the Cold War, U.S. intelligence agents...
Okay, first of all, there was a movie first, and it was a good movie. The TV show kind of sucked.
Well, the first season
was pretty good.
Yes, I agree. The movie was good. Now, the U.S. intelligence agencies were desperate to get any kind of advantage over our counterparts in the old USSR. The chatter was that the Soviets were pouring millions of dollars into ESP and psychotronic research, trying to weaponize the paranormal. So the CIA, not one to be done in weird shit, said in effect, quote, if there's even a 0.1% chance that psychic spying works, we cannot afford not to try it, end quote. So, keep in mind, in the 70s, the Pentagon said, here's $20 million and just go do what you need to do. Let's see if it'll work. Like I said, I'll give it a hell of a college try for $5 million, but $20 million, I'm going to do a good job.
I'll dedicate my life to it.
Yes. So they named or codenamed this Project Stargate. And just like the scene from Born Identity, when the program was exposed, they revamped it and nicknamed it or coded it something new. And it ran for 2 decades in complete secrecy up until it was exposed in 1995. So what did Project Stargate do? Well, basically, it was the building blocks for the old remote viewing. Hold on, I got a damn telemarketer just yapping away and don't even know what he's talking about. All right, we're back at it. We're live. We're doing it live.
What the hell are you talking about?
I'm an asshole, and so all these that buy the your cell phone banks and stuff, and they call and, hey, we just need a few more questions and we can get you this $7,000 loan. I just answer it and just let them talk, and then when they take a breath, I hang up on them. But anyway, so back at it. Remote viewing is basically a discipline of the mind where gifted individuals attempt to see predetermined targets at a distance using only their mind's eye. It sounds like snake oil sales, but the program has had real successes. These successes were so astounding that it kept the powers that be from shutting it down for over 20 years. These remote viewers once located a lost Soviet spy plane in Africa and even pinpointed the location of a new Russian nuclear submarine. Our best technology could not even scratch the surface of these missions at the time. So one of the original Army remote viewers, the OG, if you will, was Chief Warrant Officer Joe McMoneagle. And he became a legendary remote viewer, claiming hundreds of verified hits. Now, if you are like, the boys have drank way too much of the Kool-Aid and they have cocked their tinfoil hats to the side, consider that there are declassified CIA documents from 1984 that detail a remote viewing session where a remote viewer described an ancient dying alien civilization on Mars. Yes, that Mars. Not the candy bar. So the CIA actually filed this report as part of their official records. So when that document was declassified in 2024, of course it made headlines. The CIA had another remote viewer describing pyramids on Mars and an quote-unquote elder race that had perished there. Now, these remote viewers were testing the limits of reality into this wild world. So enter one Pat Price. Now, Mr. Price was a former police commissioner turned psychic superstar. He was recruited by the Stanford Research Institute, which was a front for the CIA, and his mystic accuracy in his early years was off the charts. In one case, Mr. Price psychically described the interior of a top-secret NSA facility in West Virginia down to the code words on the actual file folders. When the NSA later declassified some of these details, Mr. Price's descriptions were so accurate that it embarrassed the hell out of the security personnel at this facility. He became one of the CIA's go-to remote viewers for sensitive targets. But Price did not take any breaks. He had official remote viewing sessions, but he would enter this state to remote view on his own. And he was a true believer in the paranormal and didn't always wait for orders. So in 1973, while working for the Stanford Research Institute, Price decided on his own to search for UFO bases. No one tasked him to do this. No one gave him an envelope with coordinates. He just literally went rogue. And I mean very rogue, because he was curious. And what he discovered shook the few who heard it. So Mr. Price claimed he found an extraterrestrial base, not one, not two, but 4, hidden across the globe. One under Mount Hayes, Alaska, one under Mount Zale in Australia, one under Mont Perdido in the Pyrenees of Spain, and one under Mount Nyangani in Zimbabwe. He gave coordinates, detailed sketches, and vivid descriptions of what he saw at each location. So let's put this.
Now, are these alien bases that are just here, or they're with like connected to, working with the government? The treaty that Eisenhower supposedly signed to allow the aliens to do research and blah blah blah.
It is rumored that it's part of that.
Okay. We don't know for sure.
We don't know 100%. No. So let's put this in perspective. A respected CIA psychic / remote viewer tells his handlers that he sees alien installations on Earth, complete with equipment and ETs. Also keep in mind, this is a man who could and had sketched Soviet military sites with uncanny, almost creepy accuracy. But now he's sketching something so much stranger. According to later recollections, Price described the Mount Hayes base as buried deep in the mountain with tunnels, large caverns, and futuristic equipment banks. He said computer equipment with metallic discs were present. Now, this was the 1970s when computers still had reel-to-reel tape. What Price saw would conjure up what we would think of as the compact disc. Now, he also claimed strange humanoid creatures were working inside the mountain at these bases along with some human-looking personnel, possibly U.S. military. Basically, Price was telling the CIA that aliens had a secret joint operation under a mountain in Alaska. You can imagine the response. A couple of his commanding officers were in sheer panic mode, and others were like, he's lost his mind. Now, Dr. Haupt, one of the scientists running the program, later admitted he kept Price's wild UFO data under wraps at the time. The CIA was not paying the Stanford Research Institute to hunt for ET, and he feared mockery or worse if he tried to make this part of the official project. So he files Price's data on the 4 bases quietly away, essentially treating it as a novelty or a one-off. But Price himself wouldn't get a chance to revisit the topic after his initial remote viewing, because in 1975, while in the middle of an ongoing CIA remote viewing operation, Pat Price died suddenly in a Las Vegas hotel. Officially, it was a heart attack. Unofficially, suspicion abounds.
How old was he?
I didn't see. I want to say, he was 46 and in good health. I think he had just had a physical, if I'm not mistaken.
What age did you say? I was
46.
Damn dog.
He was
46?
46 and in good health, like had gotten a clean bill of health in his last physical.
Am I crazy? But I think that it should be a requirement for anyone that dies before the age of 70 for them to list the cause of death in their obituary.
You preaching to the choir, brother.
Because this past year, I've had several people that were either my age that I knew or a year to a couple years younger than me died. And their obituaries were like, they went to be with the Lord. Yeah, they did. But how?
Well, I've got one that they found him and just said that he died of a heart attack, but wouldn't have an autopsy done. And I'm like, I know it's not going to make him come back, but anyway. No, I'm with you. I think, I really do. I think, and here's the thing. There was horror stories about autopsies and stuff like that when it was, I guess, back in the early 80s that they were, the harvesting organs or filling them with stuff they shouldn't have filled them with and using them to transport drugs. I don't know. I know that weird shit goes on still.
There's that one story I saw on like Reddit or I don't know where, somewhere on the internet. Don't know if it's true, but like a girl went missing in Mexico and they were like searched for her. And then when they were pulled up to the border, they saw her in like a van and she was just sitting there. So they freaked out. They started calling her name, screaming at her, nothing. She didn't respond at all. So they alerted the authorities and they found her dead, gutted, stuffed to the gills with bricks of cocaine.
Yeah, and I know those are all, a lot of people are like, man, those are urban legends. And not all urban.
I wouldn't put it past them cartels to do that.
No, they're not all urban legends. So, but anyway, so like I said, Mr. Price was in good health. Age was 46, and it was whispered that he was murdered to keep him quiet about said remote viewing alien bases. Even his colleague, physicist Russell Tarr, openly stated in early of this year that he believes Price was murdered. Now, Tarr noted that both the CIA and the KGB had the motive. Price was digging into things that spooked both agencies, and we'll never know for sure, but the timing is peculiar. Price dies, and his alien base revelations fall into a black hole of secrecy for years. But his legacy refused to die. His transcripts about those 4 mysterious sites survived in the program's archives, teasing a few people that stumbled upon them. It was as if he had left a map to a hidden treasure that no one dared to look for, at least not officially. So let's dive deeper into those 4 hidden bases that Price mentioned, because they are the backbone of this whole conspiracy theory / legend. Each one is a remote, impressive natural mountain fortress that, if true, doubles as a potential alien fortress, and each has its own dark reputation. Mount Hayes is a towering icy peak in Alaska's wilderness and part of the Alaskan Range. It's also part of the weird region known as the Alaskan Triangle. Mount Zell is a massive monolith baking under the Australian sun, the highest point in the outback. Mont Perdido literally translates to Lost Mountain, is a jagged giant in the Pyrenees near the French-Spanish border, steeped in local legends. And last but not least is Mount Ngani, the highest mountain in Zimbabwe, a place locals straight up called the mountain that swallows people due to all the mysterious disappearances that occur there. In other words, Price's targets weren't random. These spots already had a creepy vibe long before any of Price's findings came out.
Well, you'd think that makes sense. Even if he was trying to hoax it, he picked remote places that were very strange. But it makes perfect logical sense that if aliens were going to build a base, it was going to be somewhere not a lot of people came.
Right. And it was kind of mysterious.
Maybe he knew that. Maybe he thought of that, and that's why he hoaxed it. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. But on the same thing, or like you earlier stated, that if he hoaxed it, he chose places that already had a type of urban legend around the location. Now, where in the hell was I at? Oh, according to Price's 1973 remote viewing session, each mountain concealed an underground facility operated by extraterrestrials. He believed they were not isolated, but part of some coordinated network, possibly even connected by tubes or some sort of passage. He described Mount Zale as, or not Zale, Mount Hale. Shit. I'm losing my mind, people. I'm losing me minds. Did I mess this up already? Where am I at? Yes, I am. Mount Hayes?
I can't make you. I'm making you lose your place. You're telling me I got to shut up. I shouldn't be talking during the podcast.
No. It's my, all right. I don't know if
You're
y'all.
blaming me. I feel attacked.
No.
I really do.
So it is Mount Zale. So I'm sorry. I apologize. You know how when you're working in anything office related, that's especially spreadsheets, which I'm not in a spreadsheet, but spreadsheets do this shit all the time. If you click the wrong place, it jumps like 45 cells upward. Well, that's what just happened.
Yes, you think? I mean, how long's been Excel been out for? Like what, 20 something years? You think they get that shit under control by now?
You would think, but yeah. So let's go back to it. So we are talking about Mount Zale down in the old Australian outback, but it is supposedly the hub. Now, he was surprised when he remote viewed it to see it had the greatest number of personnel and seemed like a rest and recreation center for other bases where, quote unquote, vehicles and people from other sites would come and go. Now, Price even wrote that Mount Zale controlled all flight orders for all units. The implication was that all UFO traffic might be centrally coordinated there. And think about it, it's the Australian outback, and there's nothing out there. And that would make perfect sense. At Mont Perdido, Price noted that what he called local units, perhaps small UFOs, with a propulsion system like an artificial electromagnetic field. He mentioned detectors scattered in a 2-mile radius around the base like an early warning system. He saw tech integrated into the terrain. My mind's eye went to those sensors out at Area 51, where they say they don't have anything on the other side of those little orange stakes, but you can bet your sweet ass they know you're coming before you do. Now, at Mount Nyangani in Africa, Price's focus was a specific device there, a tubular grid system for ionizing a layer of air. Well, what the hell does that mean? Well, it could be some sort of cloaking or energy projection system, perhaps to camouflage the base or transmit something through the atmosphere. He also saw tech integrated into other terrains. The Pyrenees base might have been more about monitoring or relaying signals since it was tucked into Europe's mountainous spine, quietly observing what comes and goes. He did say that Mount Nyangani felt quieter to him, like it was under construction or it was being revamped. It is worth noting that Nyangani has serious laws surrounding who can come and go on the mountain. Locals say that spirits guard the mountain, and people vanish there without a trace. Even prominent disappearances have happened as recently as the 1980s. One famous Zulu shaman, Credo Matwa, claimed he was abducted by aliens on Mount Nyangani. He described being taken into caves and encountering horrendous beings. Real or not, this legend predates any public knowledge of Price's work, yet lines up frighteningly with it. Now, it's as if every culture around these mountains had a sense that something inhumane was going on there, or something not of this world lived there. If we go back to Mount Hayes in Alaska, Price saw under the mountain an expansive complex with tunnels and vast caverns. He reported extensive equipment banks, what looked like quote-unquote futuristic computer systems, and he explicitly noted beings, some human-looking, some not. He also thought that some personnel at this base were U.S. military. If he was correct, it implies a clandestine collaboration of humans working alongside aliens in a hidden base. Now, decades later, in the early 1980s, other remote viewers would describe nearly the exact same scenario at Mount Hayes without knowing what target they were viewing. Even before Price dropped his bombshell, Mount Hayes had an inexplicable reputation. Alaskan bush pilots and locals have whispered about strange lights in the sky since the 1960s. The region around Hayes, like I said, sits in the Alaskan Triangle, and that's an area infamous for missing people, missing planes, and things of the sort, with over 16,000 people reported missing since 1988. There might not be that many people that live around there, but there's 16,000 people since 1988 that have gone missing.
That's insane.
Yes. Now,
I don't know, man. That's just crazy.
A Travel Channel investigation once highlighted eyewitness video of UFOs near Mount Hayes, and some researchers speculated about an underground base back in the 1990s. There's an old story of giant underground pyramids / a pyramid, big black pyramid, under or near Mount Denali, which is not far from Hayes. Now, the U.S. military allegedly detected seismic readings from that alleged pyramid that's buried in the mountain range. Now, this only strengthens the story of alien structures. Yeah, we got them structures. Alien structures under Alaska's Mount Hayes. Price's revelation about Hayes corroborated a lot of existing rumors in the area. Again, he chose a place that was shrouded in mystery and the weirdness. So, but to what gain? I guess this is what I keep going back with. He didn't gain anything by it. If anything, it cost him his damn life, because it never came to light when he was alive, and his bosses buried it, and then he's dead. And it doesn't come to light until almost, I was 20, so 1995. So
damn, you were 20 in 1995.
I know, it's hard to believe, isn't it?
You are old, man.
Yeah. Sidebar, if you get whatever the fuck is going around right now, I'm going on 2 weeks having whatever this is, and it is killing me. It is slowly killing me. I slept for 12 hours last night, and I still feel like shit. But anyway, also at 50,
that's pretty bad, brother. If you sleep 12 hours and you still feel like hell, that's pretty bad. You put that on. That's an act right there.
Yeah, I wish I could stop that. So also at 50, my body's decided, all that amoxicillin you've taken your entire life that never affected you. Well, guess what? It's going to make you nauseous now.
Yeah, I'm about to turn 44 a week from yesterday. 6 days, I'm going to be 44. How the fuck did that happen?
By grace, luck.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah. I've dodged a few bullets in my day, let me tell you.
Yes. So according to Price and others, these subterranean bases were not launch pads for an invasion or anything explicitly hostile. They seem to be monitoring stations, basically a way to keep an eye on us humans. The data gleaned from Price's remote viewing session, along with other sessions, indicated that they were focused on observation, location, relay, and possibly navigation. One later remote viewer even said the sites might link to something in deep space, possibly a mothership or a planet, because they had sensed a, quote, presence between Earth and Mars tied to the base. In fact, Price suspected the bases communicated with an orbiting platform or some far-off point coordinating whatever mission they had. If true, this sounds like a planetary surveillance grid operated by an extraterrestrial intelligence. Earth may be a watched planet, and some people in power might know if that is true. And you're probably thinking, The boys have drank way too many IPAs in that dark, dank, moist basement. This is too crazy.
If you know anything about Earth, wouldn't you think if there were aliens out there, we would definitely want to be, they would definitely want to monitor us knuckleheads?
Oh, yeah, they're definitely rolling the windows up in that UFO.
They're locking the doors. They're rolling up the windows. They're like, man, you don't stop there.
So I've heard that we're either a prison, an experiment, or a zoo. And I don't like any of those.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love, starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
I mean, as much shenanigans as we pulled off in our history, I think zoo's most likely.
I happen to agree. So Project 8200 would put Price's wild visions to the test, and the results would make his staunchest critics take pause. Maybe even turn them a shade of white. So years after Pat Price's untimely death, the legend of the 4 alien bases lived on in hushed conversations among those in the Stargate program. By the early 1980s, the U.S. Army had taken over much of the remote viewing research operating out of Fort Meade, Maryland, under INSCOM, or Intelligence and Security Command. The Army was using techniques refined by Ingo Swann and other doctors to train a crew of military remote viewers. This crew comprised of well-disciplined soldiers, majors, warrant officers, sergeants, all of whom had turned into psychic detectives. One of these commanding officers was a man named Captain F. Holmes Atwater, better known as Mr. Skip Atwater. And he served as operations and training officer for Project Stargate. Now, Atwater learned about Price's secret UFO data from Hal Puthoff sometime early in 1980. Now, this is basically something straight out of the X-Files. Atwater, a career Army man, is handed a folder of stuff from over a decade ago. Inside this folder, he allegedly learns that one of the best psychics who ever lived claimed aliens were living or monitoring the planet under 4 mountains. Instead of dismissing it, Atwater became curious and saw an opportunity. He used the 4 mountains as a training exercise to push his viewers' limits. Officially, the taskings would be under a challenge target training series, so it didn't sound too crazy. Unofficially, Atwater named it Project 8200. So between 1982 and 1985, at least 6 Army remote viewers were blindly assigned to focus on the coordinates of Mount Hayes, Mount Zell, Mont Perdido, and Mont Yangani. Blind means that they had zero idea what or where the target was. They were typically just given a set of numbers or a sealed envelope. Now, this is critical in the story because by making it a blind target, it rules out imagination or bias. So the viewers had no clue they may be looking at alleged alien bases. Atwater ensured strict protocols, as one participant, Paul Smith, later said, quote, "They took it seriously and kept the session scientifically clean," end quote. The viewers just followed their impressions and reported the results. And these results were jaw-dropping. When Atwater compiled the data, he found that the viewers' description overwhelmingly matched those of Price's early visions and also correlated with each other. At each site, multiple people described similar structures, energies, and entities. This wasn't a one-off fluke. It was repeatable across different viewers who didn't even know each other's results. It's similar to several people having the same very specific dream without ever discussing it. This got everybody's attention. So on July 28th, 1982, Joe McMoneagle, remember, he is one of the most accurate remote viewers in program history, did a remote viewing session known as RV Session 382 on a target that turned out to be Mount Hayes. McMoneagle was confused by what he saw. He described a deep, hidden location in a desolate range of mountains where something was buried. Inside, he encountered objects and technology he simply had no words for. He famously said it was, quote, like looking or asking an aborigine who has never seen an automobile to crawl inside one and describe it, end quote. In other words, it was so advanced, he couldn't even put words to what it would equate as human machinery. McMoneagle sensed masses of electronics, grid work, and something big and complex hidden under the mountain. Another viewer, codenamed 721, in August of 1982, similarly saw, quote, a mess of wires remotely controlled like a rocket or propulsion, a tubular circular shape like a missile or space vehicle. They're all grappling to describe high-tech hardware that doesn't fit their 1980 frame of reference, end quote. In 1985, Major Bill Ray did a session on Mount Hayes and described the mountain as hollowed out with electronic monitoring equipment and metallic ships that, quote-unquote, are very quick. He said he got a, quote-unquote, research vibe from the site like it was a lab or observatory. Alarmingly, Major Ray reported seeing people in there who were thin, emotionless, cold, almost programmed, and whom he said felt, quote-unquote, unearthly. The staff of this base was described as not normal humans. Now, another session the same day by Charlene Cavanaugh also found a hollow mountain, and she noted, quote-unquote, a foul odor, which is peculiar, but in my research, this foul odor is something that a lot of people who encounter the paranormal and UFO state is present. They could perhaps be describing the air or chemicals inside the base. In Mel Riley's session in 1986 on Mount Hayes, he said it was, quote, like being inside NORAD at Cheyenne Mountain, except at one point I perceived a dark shadow entity using a keyboard and working controls, end quote. He even got an analytical overlay of a UFO during his viewing. Basically, the idea of a UFO popped into his mind as an explanation for what he was seeing. So we have different viewers over several years, all seeing a hollowed-out mountain base, advanced electronics, fast craft, and non-humans operating in the shadows. Think double-blind test. So now let's look at Mount Zell, and that one's the one in Australia. So in Joe McMoneagle's 1982 session, he felt something sinister at the target. He sensed it wasn't actively threatening, more like a defensive outpost on alert. He found an entry to an underground area, and once again, he saw electronics, glowing, pulsing patterns, and even related it to, quote, looking like all the command and control centers I've ever seen, end quote. Price's earlier notes on Mount Zell said that the site had many personnel like a radar and flight control center, which also fits McMoneagle's sense of it being a command and control center. The viewers also drew images of disc-shaped coils and described an underground cave with something like a white dome or plate emitting signals, almost as if it were an underground hangar or communications hub. Now, McMoneagle also views in August of 1982 Mont Perdido, and he described it as a natural cave that goes vertically then horizontally, a tunnel with wires going out like an octopus to a white box, which felt like a grid or a network node. He sensed, quote, a dormant waiting quality, a footprint of some kind, as if it's an installation biding its time, end quote. Then he had visions of an upside-down cone, huge, spinning upward, interconnecting points like a spider web, extreme high-frequency relays. Now, people have theorized that he was visualizing some kind of energy or signal transmitter buried inside the mountain. Perhaps Mount Perdido was used as a communication relay base. The very name, Mount Perdido, translates to Lost Mountain, and it is poetic if something is hiding in plain sight. So in McMonagle's viewing of Mount Nyangani, he stated that he was sensing quote-unquote multiple mountains. Now, the area has several highlands with a target buried beneath. Just as he had at the other targets, McMonagle saw a three-legged or tripod object that could be an antenna or portal protruding from the ground. He also saw black boxes of electronics, power packs, quote, very advanced like I've never seen, end quote. Now, when Price viewed it, he stated that he saw a ionizing device, which could be the tripod object that McMonagle saw. Now, Mount Nyangani could have been or is a power or atmospheric station. Considering Zimbabwean folklore about the mountain spirits, if villagers stumbled on any hint of this weird tech, no wonder they would think it was a spirit or the spirit's world manipulating reality. There is truth to most of our myths.
That's a very good point. I mean, they're from Zimbabwe. You think they would recognize futuristic tech as anything except godly? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, no way, man.
No, and that's the thing. Like, you know, you're playing devil's advocate when you're reading this about, well, Price is just a fool. He's a charlatan. He's trying to make a buck. But what was he trying to make a buck off of? Like I said, he didn't make it very far if he was trying to make some money.
Yeah, and that's a recurring theme when we talk about these type of people is if they're going to make this shit up, you'd think they'd cash in on it. Most people don't. Most people don't make anything. I harken back to like the Gary Subrin case, which is still, as everybody knows, my favorite case. He literally did one article online and he told one person that was doing talks. And from that, they made one online article. And until this day, we're almost at episode 300. And to this day, 4.5 years ago, the only interview he ever gave, was to us.
Bingo, bango, babies.
He made no money off of it.
And we've not made hardly a dime off this story.
Because I promise you, we didn't pay him. I can assure you of that.
Not in the early years, we would not have paid him. Hell, we wouldn't pay for a guest now.
Hell, we wouldn't pay him for him now. We couldn't afford it now.
No.
But he did an interview with us. He's made zero money off of it. So why on earth would you make these things up? That's what I'm saying. Like most cases we cover, it makes no sense for them to make it up.
So
including this one.
By the end of Project 8200, Skip Atwater had the confirmation he needed. He later summarized, quote, Project 8200 data appeared to confirm the existence of 4 subterranean sites and several remote viewers detected extraterrestrial overtones. The sites were highly protected from discovery, mutually supportive in purpose, and a very high technology. Benign in purpose involving precise observation, possibly connected with an object in deep space, end quote. One viewer even stated, quote, there were more of these bases, some on the seabed, end quote. If true, this implies a global network far beyond just the 4 mountains that have been remote viewed. Now you may be asking yourself, what did the Army do with this bombshell information? Well, what the Army does with all the stuff they get. Officially, they didn't do a damn thing. Unofficially, let your imagination run wild. The Army treated Project 8200 as just a training exercise, a footnote in history. The results were never reported up the chain of command. They gathered the data, compiled a report, then locked it away. Atwater probably looked at it and said, "This is absolutely incredible, but nope, I ain't touching it, and I'm going to just stick this right over here in this filing cabinet."
I mean, can you blame him, though?
Hell no, you can't, because that is career suicide. So, the remote viewing unit had regular duties like, hunting for Soviet secrets. Chasing aliens and hidden bases was not on the official ticket to credibility or promotions. So they kept Project 8200 on the DL, where it remained an open secret among those few that were involved. As one insider put it, quote, "This kind of thing you only share with those who need to know because it challenges the entire worldview of our national security apparatus," end quote. Now remember, the 1980s was full of the Star Wars program, the Cold War, and nuclear fears. The military brass didn't want to hear about underground bases and aliens. Thus, Project 8200's revelations got buried in classified archives, effectively becoming a piece of undisclosed history. It is only in recent years that we have some of these details starting to leak out to the public. Thanks to the persistence of figures like Skip Atwater, Paul Smith, and others who decided to share their stories. Atwater even authored a book compiling the original remote viewing transcripts for these targets. In 1995, when the CIA finally decided to shut down Project Stargate, they claimed it never produced any actionable intelligence. Well, of course you would say that. Typical of the CIA. The official stance remains nothing to see here. Meanwhile, the data sits in the shadows, quietly whispering that our reality is far stranger than we are allowed to know.
Wait a minute. Are you trying to say the CIA would lie to us?
I know that is a hard pill to swallow, but yes, that is exactly what I'm putting down. Now, you have to wonder that if modern U.S. spies stumbled on this cosmic secret, perhaps it wasn't a total surprise. Perhaps rumors of this knowledge have been with humanity for ages, encoded in myths, religions, and secret societies. So what if the ancient echoes of the quote-unquote Watchers is what Project 8200 uncovered? Is it possible that the idea of non-human intelligence lurking in hidden places on Earth is as old as civilization itself? Maybe our ancestors encountered these beings long ago and tried to warn us or celebrate it in the only terms they knew. Let's consider, well, kind of like...
that would make sense. I mean, they would see them as like gods, you know?
And that's what I was about to say. It's kind of like what you just said about the Zimbabwean culture. They don't have words for what they're seeing, so they make it supernatural. They make it godly or spiritual.
Well, I mean, even if you don't see it as supernatural, like not see it as supernatural, like you don't have words for it, so you make it supernatural. No, if they literally saw things that came from the sky, wouldn't you think that they would interpret it as gods?
Yes, I agree. 100%.
I mean, I don't think that's absolutely true.
And now this is going to be a stretch, and I just bear with us. But and those of you that have done any research into this know that part of this has been kind of thrown away and stuff like that. But if we look at the Book of Enoch, it does have some bizarre stories. And in the Book of Enoch, 200 heavenly beings called Watchers rebelled and descended from the skies to earth. And where did they arrive? Not randomly on some mountaintop, specifically on Mount Hermon in the Middle East. Now, Enoch says there were in all 200 who descended in the days of Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon. These Watchers then secretly lived among humans, taking wives, teaching advanced knowledge like metallurgy, astronomy, weaponry, essentially jump-starting civilization and fathering the Nephilim, a.k.a. the giants of the world. In the series Ancient Aliens, it has been theorized that extraterrestrial beings landed on a high mountain, hid among men, imparted technology, and interfered with human affairs. Eventually, in the book of Enoch, the Watchers get punished by God and are imprisoned. Some stay in prison under the earth. Essentially, beings on a mountain hidden from public view influence humanity from the shadows. Sounds a lot like a secret installation on a mountaintop, quietly observing or guiding. If we look at the Hindu epics of the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, they speak of the Vimanas, the flying crafts of the gods, glittering and deadly. These texts describe celestial wars and weapons that sound uncannily like high-tech lasers or even nuclear blasts. In the Mahabharata, one hero is taken to a city in the sky by a god, perhaps a spaceship. If advanced beings were here in the distant past, the ancient Indians may have called them Devas or Asuras, gods or demons, and their tech became flying chariots. The key is these stories place advanced non-human entities into the narrative of Earth's history. Then we have the myths of the subterranean realms. Nearly every culture has them. The legends of Agartha, a supposed empire inside the earth, not mere caves, an actual hole in the earth. And this legend was popularized in the 19th century, but it drew from older sources and speaks of a hidden kingdom beneath the Himalayas ruled by an enlightened race with advanced technology. In the 1880s, occult writer Saint Diavalda claimed he learned via mystic means that Agartha was real, a vast underground civilization led by a king of the world endowed with knowledge and power beyond our, quote, surface science. The Agarthans supposedly chose to observe humanity from afar without intervening directly. And that's basically the benign monitoring missions or stations described in Project 8200. Now, some versions say Agartha's people had telepathic abilities and long lifespans and retreated below the surface to avoid the corruptions of us surface dwellers. Now, this is a bit obviously fringe history, but the consistency between these stories and what Project 8200 found is mesmerizing. Advanced beings underground, watching, occasionally guiding. Now, the Nazis, those Nazis, my job is hunting Nazis.
Are there any other Nazis?
No. Were obsessed with Agartha and Shambhala. There's evidence that the Nazi SS was sent on expeditions to Tibet seeking entrances to this inner world. They took it seriously enough to invest resources, perhaps because they had heard whispers of occult powers below the earth. Now, the indigenous people of the Americas, specifically the Dene Navajo, speak of star people living under mountains and lakes. Aboriginal Australians have dreamtime stories of figures that come from the sky and go into the ground. In Zimbabwe, the Shona people regard Mount Ngani as a dwelling of spiritual entities. They warn never to point at the mountain or laugh at certain sacred sites, lest the loners of the mountain take offense. People who vanish there are said to be taken to the spirit world inside the mountain. And I mentioned this earlier, but Kodomo Matwa, the late Zulu shaman, recounted how during a ritual on another sacred mountain, he was abducted by gray-skinned beings who molested and examined him, then released him, and he believed they were the same masters spoken of in ancient African myths. His testimony given to a researcher describes a classic alien abduction, but was contextualized as tribal mysticism. Matwa even said after that encounter, he learned things about human history that deeply troubled him. There are theories that ancient gods, angels, and demons were always just euphemisms for extraterrestrials or interdimensional beings. It's a hypothesis that has gained some popularity of late. The Gnostic texts of the early Christians talk about the archons, otherworldly rulers of earth who deceive humans and feed off our ignorance. They are described as inorganic, sometimes serpentine, sometimes draconic, and they serve a false god, the demiurge, who keeps mankind in a spiritual sleep. Some modern UFO researchers see the archons as ancient descriptions of aliens manipulating humanity at a psychic level. Archons have been equated to clandestine ET controllers. If we think of this and equate it to Project 8200, then we have aliens who have bases here quietly monitoring. They very well might have been around for millennia, nudging things subtly. This would account for great technological leaps or the sudden birth of civilizations in the Middle East. How we went from horse and buggy to space travel in a century. Could an invisible hand have steered humanity? Did the remote viewers perhaps tap into something that's been right under our noses and feet all along? So let's not forget the biblical and the Quranic motif of beings inside the earth. Revelation chapter 5 verse 3 says, quote, "No one in heaven or on earth or under the earth was able to open the scroll under the earth," end quote. The Quran, and I don't know if it goes by chapter and verse, but 72:11 speaks of the jinn, beings made of smokeless fire living alongside us, some good, some evil. Traditional law often places the jinn in remote ruins or underground. Could the jinn be a common label for entities like those in the bases? These beings could have been given rise to legends of genies, fairies, little people in the hills, etc. There's a whole domain of folklore about people stumbling into the realm of the hidden people inside mountains or hills and then returning with missing time. What about the Antarctic and polar stories such as Admiral Byrd's diary, though unverified, claims that he flew into an opening at the North Pole and met an advanced underground civilization. In recent years, we've heard credible military pilots and sailors speak of UFOs that dart around and in and out of the ocean, the USOs. If something non-human hides in remote places, the deep ocean is as good as any mountain that we have. Now remember, one of Skip Atwater's remote viewers saw, quote, "additional bases on the sea floor," end quote. Could he be referring to Atlantis? Could he be referring to the Antarctic elder beings that reside in the mountains? The ancients gave us pieces of code. Watchers on Mount Hermon, hidden kings under the Himalayas, sky people from African peaks, flying chariots, cloud cities, demigods, teaching mankind arts of civilization. It reads like a recount of contact, sometimes open, often covert. Maybe these watchers moved from meddling openly to going covert, watching from underground after humanity got too numerous and too predictable. Perhaps they decided it's more efficient to observe and subtly steer rather than show up with out of this world technology. By the time of modern governments, these beings might have struck up secret arrangements, aka what Coach talked about with the treaty, that you don't bother us, you give us a little scratch on the back, we won't bother you, we'll scratch your back with some technological advances. Now, this is all speculation, but when you have U.S. intelligent remote viewers confirming 4 bases and you have numerous ancient accounts that align with the idea of hidden beings, the line between myth and reality starts to get a little blurry. And it appears that the secret is leaking. Are we on the precipice of a new reality? Everything we've talked about so far, from remote viewing spies on aliens to ancient scriptures hinting at hidden overlords, converges on one moment in history. The truth has been knocking on the door, and that door, according to some, is starting to not crack open, but splinter open. The question is, and has always been, can we handle what is on the other side of that door? In the last couple of years, the subject of UFOs, now known as UAPs, has exploded. Military fighter pilots testified about objects maneuvering in our skies with freedom. The Pentagon has radar logs, cockpit videos, etc. The evidence is mounting that something either non-human or so deep in the black budget is encroaching our airspace. In 2023, a man named David Grouch, a former intelligence officer, came forward as a whistleblower. Under oath in front of Congress, Grouch calmly stated that the U.S. government has been running a top-secret crash retrieval and reverse engineering program for decades. Even if you are a Tennessee fan, that means they have recovered alien spacecraft and even bodies. Nothing? I get nothing from you? He's just out. I get nothing. I insulted your college team.
I'm sorry. I was distracted.
I insult your college team. I get nothing.
What did you say? Say it again.
I said even a Tennessee fan can figure out that they've recovered alien spacecraft and bodies.
Don't you insult Tennessee. The 2025 national champion.
Oh, he's going on record as of September 2nd at 9:32 Eastern.
Hopefully. But you keep going, brother.
All right. So when asked if we had the bodies of the pilots of these crafts, Grouch replied, Jesus. He replied, quote, biologics came with some of the recoveries, non-human biologics, end quote. He went on to say, quote, we have the bodies on ice, end quote. Grouch also said these programs have been illegally concealed from Congress, operating with an extreme compartmentalization, and that he himself had been threatened for digging into it. He hinted that people have been harmed or injured to protect this secret. Pat Price died mysteriously after claiming aliens are here. Decades later, an intel guy says people get offed, O-F-F-T, over the truth about
O-F-T, offed.
UFOs. Grouch's testimony essentially vindicated what many in the UFO community have long alleged, that a secret world within the government knows we're not alone and has actual hardware and perhaps cooperation from these ETs. Imagine being one of the faceless officials that have known since at least Roswell in 1947, if not earlier, that something or someone is here with us. Perhaps they learned that these beings have bases or operations on Earth. This could have been gleaned from interrogating an alien, maybe from remote viewing in an earlier sense, like Project 8200 did. How would you react if you were this faceless official? These people are afraid of losing control at the hands of the panic that would ensue in the public. They also are super power hungry with tantalizing opportunity to gather this new technology, the holy grail of science. So they clamped down and made it a need to know only. They would interact with these beings in the shadows, making deals, having skirmishes or standoffs, and God knows what else. Several remote viewers stated that they sensed a presence telling them to quote-unquote stay away. In Ingo Swann's case, when he remote viewed the moon base, he asked the secret agent Axelrod if the U.S. had contacted those aliens. The reply was approximately correct, but not completely so. Swann inferred that whoever's on the moon basically warned humans off. Thus, why Axelrod had to use psychic means to scout it. So a plausible scenario starts to emerge. The U.S. and maybe other major powers are aware of non-human installations on Earth and the moon. They have an uneasy don't interfere pact. In exchange, maybe we are allowed to salvage some crashed craft. Some have said that other crafts have been gifted to us. Could there be a new Cold War, a Cold War of information? Them trying to stay hidden and a small power-hungry human group trying to uncover or exploit. So if we look at Project 8200's data and what it means in today's context, we have the possibility that aliens have been here watching. Our leaders likely have been lying by omission on a cosmic scale. And now, bit by bit, the truth is seeping out. And it's not just Grouch. Remember, Navy Commander David Fravor testified about a Tic Tac UFO outperforming any known craft in 2004 and how it wasn't our physics. Other pilots like Ryan Graves spoke of near daily encounters off the Atlantic coast. Even NASA and the Pentagon grudgingly had to admit that there are unknowns they cannot explain. What if the revelations to come confirm that those 4 mountain bases that Pat Price initially saw are real? Imagine an official announcement that, yes, we've detected structures under Mount Hayes emitting exotic energy, or we send a probe into Yangani's cave and it just disappears. Maybe one day soon a whistleblower will straight up say, quote, I worked at an underground facility alongside beings that were not human, end quote. So in 2022, an ex-Navy officer claimed he was taken to a secret South Pole base where he saw a 32-foot tall alien in status.
Did you say 30-foot tall?
He's 32 foot tall.
Oh, wow.
As insane as that sounds, we may get confirmation of an extraterrestrial presence on Earth within our lifetime. What would that do to the proverbial psyche of our civilization? That's the big question about disclosure. Religion, science, politics, they all get upended. No more are we the apex intelligence on this planet. We become the primitive tribe in someone else's wildlife reserve, the zoo.
Well, you've heard like the rumor that like there's supposedly the mothership's going to approach is just a big conspiracy that they're going to use against us to create a one world government.
Yeah, the Project Bluebeam.
Yes, Bluebeam, that's what it's called. Thank you. That it's all just going to be a big ass hoax.
And that's what a lot of people, that's what I was going to say. The other side of this coin is the military is using this for their own gain, and they're going to use it to basically create a one world government or a police state. But if we do, humorously look at this, are we the zoo? For some, it's horrific. It's horrifying. For others, it's a vindication of long-held suspicions. Many will feel betrayed by authorities who kept them in the dark. It could unite humanity or it could tear it apart. Maybe this final revelation is exactly what we need. Remember President Reagan's claim to the UN, quote, "Can we and all nations not live in peace? In our obsession with antagonisms of the moment, we often forget how much unites all of the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize the common bond. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet I ask you, is not an alien force already among us? If we're not alone, and never have been, our perspective on every war, every border, every ideology could shift in an instant. Precipitously, it's humanity versus the bigger unknown. Not necessarily versus as in conflict, but as in contrast. It would force us to grow the fuck up quickly."
Yeah, I don't know if Reagan said grow the fuck up.
Well, no. I ended that.
I'm not sure that's the direct quote.
You don't think that was in the UN? You sure? I mean, I
don't know. I'm going to say that I don't know for sure.
I'm going to say no for $200, Alex. No. But I will say this. After researching all of this, you have to take some of this with a grain of salt. Like I said, a lot of this goes into the Book of Enoch. And if you do any research into the Book of Enoch and you do it and try to be unbiased and not dive down the rabbit hole, there are 3 Enochs in the Bible. And we're not told which one of those Enochs wrote the Book of Enoch. Also, there's been some pretty sound research that the Book of Enoch was written, I think, 1,000 years after Christ. So,
well, yeah, but a lot of those books were written after Christ. I mean, you can't just dismiss it just because of that.
Well, no, that's not what I'm saying. Like, it's kind of like a stepping stone. The fact that
sounds like that's what you're saying.
It's the fact
it sounds like you're dismissing the whole Bible to me. I don't know.
Yeah. Now we're just throwing shit against the wall and seeing what sticks. But no, it's just a building block of a lot of things that make the Book of Enoch. I don't know. So, but anyway, going back to this whole thing, we kind of got off on a tangent with the, could it be tied into something real? As in they've been here for a long time. What I wanted to do is that whole Project 8200 led to all of this. But if we go back to just Pat Price and the remote viewers, I honest to God think they did see something. And they, like I said, Atwater was pretty smart when he gave them, all of his remote viewers, the same target, but didn't tell them what it was. And they kind of corroborated each other's stories. So that kind of like that double blind test kind of speaks volumes to what they saw. McMoneagle does an interview with Sean Ryan on the Sean Ryan Show podcast. He is in his 80s. He's like a grandfather. And if you are the least bit tired listening to that man talk, you will fall asleep. But he is extremely brilliant. I think, I'm not 100% certain, but I think Skip Atwater was also on the Sean Ryan show. He has not done Hal Puthoff. I know Hal Puthoff has been on Joe Rogan, and he is very cagey about what he says. The remote viewing, if any of you watched that show Beyond Skinwalker Ranch, they've done a couple of episodes on remote viewing, and then they went to the Institute in Virginia. Can't remember what it's called now. In this last season. So there's a lot of information out there if this is something that tickles you fancy. If there's a specific thing in remote viewing, a specific person that you would like us to cover, let us know. Also, I meant to say this earlier. There's probably no one listening, so I'll have to do it next week. But if you have emailed us any recommendations within the past month and you have not gotten a response, please resend that email. The email somehow got sold and it has been spammed. Like I opened it up the other day and there was like 1,500 like advertisement emails. I tried to go through them and weed out a bunch of the stuff. One of our great listeners who gave us the Christmas cryptids. Trying to think if I can find her doc. She's going to absolutely crucify me now.
I hope so.
Because I have forgotten her name. Look, it's still crap. All right, so if you have sent, I'm not going to call you out, but if you sent us something about the East Tennessee rabbit hole with Summer Wells, we got that one.
It's Wednesday Addams. I see you're trying to distract yourself from your own banal thoughts. Let me help. Here's a recording thing made of my latest root canal.
Wednesday Season 2 is now playing only on Netflix.
As a sports fan, I have to confess. Sometimes the game gets kind of boring. That's when I unfold my Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 and use multi-window viewing on its large screen. Boring game? I'm checking out my fantasy baseball league at the same time. Score still 1-0? I'm replying to emails in the other window, scoring points with the boss. Semifinals finally getting exciting? I'm buying tickets to the finals and booking my flights. Can your phone do that?
The new Galaxy Z Fold 7. Get yours at Samsung.com.
It was probably Peace Cat. One of our great early listeners.
Case dismissed. What is that? I don't even know what the hell that is.
You're not even fucking listening to me.
I heard you. I'm trying to find.
You didn't.
You said it was probably. You said it was probably Peace Cat. Well, hell, I had to bring you in on the thing. That's ours. What is that doing? I just answered her in a reply. That's what I think. Drafts. Did it not send? Because that's going to absolutely fucking piss me off if it did. Sent. No. Yes. There it is. There it is. Dr. Baruth. I apologize, Doctor. She sent us a great one that I'm going to forward to you because it's just too much for me to talk about right here. But we have covered. She give us some unsolved.
You can't piss off a doctor, man.
Hell no. And she has a cool 7-year-old neighbor who has 4 full-size Grim Reapers staring out of his window as of July 31st.
I have no idea what that means.
The Grim Reaper. He is like, this boy is infatuated with Halloween, and I think in her original email, he has a birthday party up, and he calls it Summerween. So he's the one that she talks to about some of the weird hauntings and stuff.
Okay, I like that kid.
Yes, that's what that's exactly what I told her.
Anything more about that kid to know that I like him?
I told her, I said, your neighbor is our kind of people.
Oh, yeah. He's with us.
Yep.
One of us.
One
of us.
Okay, so with that said, that's about the last one, and that was the end of July. So that's about the last one I've gotten. that I remember. If you sent it via Patreon, I found one some mysterious way today, and I think I responded to you, but I did write it down. So that one's been written down. There was 2 case suggestions there. So again, if you are wanting to suggest something, please email us at mysteriousbrews@gmail.com. And I promise you, while I'm working, trying to clean this mailbox up. Jeez, I still have 545 to go. I did 1,000, man. I did 1,000.
That's pretty good, man. I mean, the fact that we got that, it's pretty fucking good.
So, recommendations.
You go ahead.
Well, I'm going to, as I talk to you about it, I'm going to see if he has anything else on some of those things. But I'm going to recommend the Joe McMoneagle episode on the Sean Ryan Show. Like I said, do not listen to that late at night, because you will be sound asleep and wake up and it'll be over and you're like, man, I just remember them reading the bio. But of course, there's a fucking ad. Let me see if I can find old Joe McMoneagle. He's way back early, guess. But I want to say he's done a couple of... Yeah, Skip Atwater was episode 154. He talks about remote viewing on Mars. That's episode 154. And then McMoneagle... Where's he at? I think he was earlier than that. Dr. Avi Lieb, that's a good one. He's way too smart for me to even... I had to pause that one. Where's it at? McMoneagle. There it is, episode 95. So episode 95, Joe McMoneagle talks about how he got into Project Stargate, and then, like I said, 154, is that what I said for Atwater?
I think that's what you said.
Yep,
yeah.
154 for Atwater. So there you go. Those are my 2 recommendations. And if you know Sean Ryan personally, we would love to come and be on his show and talk about stupid shit.
Oh, absolutely.
And he's right up the road. We could be there in 2 hours.
Well, my recommendation is a brand new documentary on Netflix called Unknown Number.
I've seen the videos.
No, it's insane, bro.
It's what it sounds like. It sounds like it will make your brain itch.
I'm not going to say anything about the case, but man, it's insane. I watched it today with my fiance, and dude, it's just crazy. It's crazy.
My gosh. The little snippets that I've seen trying to get you to watch it, I'm like, what?
No, I knew about the case before the documentary, but it's so crazy. And when I say they interview everyone involved, I'm telling you, they interview everyone involved.
Sweet.
Including the perpetrator.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's wild, dude. You got to watch it. If you haven't seen it, if you don't know about it, as soon as we get off the air, I'll tell you exactly what happened. But I'm not going to tell our listeners because they need to watch it themselves.
That's right. Support American business. Watch at Netflix, which is probably not owned by Americans. But anyway, all right, Coach. Do you have anything else for the ladies and gents out there?
Oh, I don't.
Deuces.